Welcome to Bigfoot Society. If you have Bigfoot activity to report from the same areas discussed in this episode, please reach out to me directly after this episode. And if you'd like to be on the podcast to discuss a personal Bigfoot encounter, please reach out to me directly at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Do you wish there was more Bigfoot Society to listen to every week? Well, there is now. If you become a supporting member over at Patreon, you get a special members-only episode every single week on Wednesdays, and sometimes even more episodes. Head on over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. And now let's get on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got the privilege of talking to a listener today who reached out. His name is Brent Joines. He's a musician, but he's going to be sharing a interesting thing that happened on a camping trip. And I'm going to leave it at there and let Brent fill in all the details for us. But how's it going today, Brent?
Good. Trying to stay warm out here in Oklahoma City. So I really appreciate you letting me be on the show, share my story. I have one main encounter and then have some things, really unusual things that happened throughout my life, just things that I couldn't really explain. But I'd like to first start off by saying that I've always kind of had an interest in Bigfoot and just things that were really unusual. When I was really young, I was always really kind of drawn to books that were anything that was Bigfoot, UFO, Loch Ness Monster. It was really cool to me. Those choose your own adventure books were just always just, they were just so cool to me. I was just really enamored by that stuff, and it kind of stuck in my mind. But I never thought anything could be could really we could really experience anything unusual that I really can't explain today. But we used to have, when I was really young, in elementary school, I lived basically our school was pretty much the field that was behind the school was my house was basically up against that, and we had this this huge field that was called the ditch, and it was just this big sewage, basically they took it was just this open waterway for all the sewage from the neighborhood to just drain out, and it would make this huge hill, and we would just play there just every day, and it was just super fun. We thought we were playing Dungeons and Dragons, but we didn't know. We just knew it was a popular game. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just, we just play out there. But anyway, one day, towards it was really, so there's a lot of things about this that was really unusual to me, and really it still makes me to this day. I'm still it was really just so weird. And so but basically we found footprints, big, huge footprints. I don't know what size they were, but they were footprints all the way on the back of it was on the back. It was literally there was a little just a little spot of footprints, but one big defined footprint, huge. And we just thought that it was so odd because, and it was facing directly to the back of the house of where there was a house. Someone was maybe looking over a fence or something. But what was so weird about it was that the mud, they just kind of built that other side. My house was on the opposite side, but where that house was built, that whole area was still getting built. And this is in terms of time frame, this is probably, I was probably 9 or 10. So it was it was really, there was not much development back there. There was, but it was, it was really open. But anyway, what was so odd about this footprint though was, and we actually thought that it was Bigfoot. We're this got to be Bigfoot. But then we didn't do anything. We didn't know what to do. We're just this is just really cool. But what was so weird is that area where it was at was, so the time of year it was cold, but it was muddy and rainy, and the mud had there was just no telling what, like we would never go out there like walking barefoot. Like you just would not do that. Like there's so many things that could have, like we would have stepped on. Like we just knew better. Like you just didn't do that. But there was like pieces of chunks of like cement and like broken glass and like just things that like, it looked like, like construction crews, just kind of like the aftermath. They just left it there. And I don't know, it was just very strange. What was really odd though, is that, I mean, there's not a lot of like foliage around from like, cause the whole back half of that was basically like an open, like farm, like field, like just crops and stuff that they would grow. And at that time it was completely empty. Like there was nothing out there. But yeah, we just stumbled upon that and it was just really odd. And I've always thought about it. I went on the DFRO website like years later, and I just was really curious to see if anybody's had any, because it's in Corpus Christi, like Cal Allen, kind of like, this is like way down like in Texas, where I should have mentioned that first, but it's just not, I don't know. It seems like it would just be to like have, like, there's just, too many people around, and like, where would there's nothing to really cover it, but anyway, I just went on the site and just read that there's people had actually had like some encounters, or not like, or I think there was like a lady had saw something like by her trash cans, and like an area that was very like kind of similar to where we were at. Like it was very open and like there's just no trees or nothing. And, you hear about, them being in like areas like Arizona where there's not a lot of like coverage there either. So I don't know. But anyway, that's something I've always thought about. It was something so weird to us. I mean, it could have been, a grown adult's foot, but it was just so odd. The time, it seemed pretty fresh. So like, it was like, it happened kind of recently, and like, it just didn't, there was nothing else out there. Like there was no other like trash or nothing or debris. It didn't look like no one was like throwing anything else out there. Like, so I don't know. It was just very unusual. And so anyway, moving forward. So I became a skateboarder. I got into like skateboarding. It was just like a interest of mine. And through my early adult years, I would just kind of start to get in trouble. And I ended up having to like join the military. And I never had anything happen while I was there. But when I drove out to my unit, that was definitely, I don't know, it was just this very surreal experience. It's kind of crazy that that I never had anything experienced out there, but yeah, I spent a lot of time in the woods, and I felt like I was very in tune with what was going on around me. So I don't know. I think that was very odd, but I felt like that kind of like prepared me for like wanting to be out in the just spend more time out. Like I really kind of, we would spend so much time training in the field. Like it made me want to like be out, like just spend as much time as I could out in the woods. But anyway, so I'm in the service. I get out. I ended up deciding to get out. I had to get out for basically medical reasons. And I ended up getting a job in the skateboard industry as a sales rep. And I was doing really good for myself, and I was making really good money, and I was just moving up really fast. And then basically the economy just like hit all at once. Like it just completely crashed. And at the same time, a lot of like just really horrible things were happening in my life. Like, I mean, it was just a friend of mine just, he got hit he was in a motorcycle accident and died. My aunt and uncle died of cancer. This guy that I had known from church years ago, like apparently had been getting into like really bad drugs and did some really like seriously horrible stuff, and ended up going to prison. And it was just really shocking. All this stuff was happening, and I'm losing my business. Everything was kind of like coming to like a very like intense point in my life. And it was really getting tough to deal with. And I ended up getting let go from my job. And it was just a very intense, tough time for me. And I decided, like, I had like a big severance from the company. And I decided, hey, I'm just going to get in my car and drive up to Yellowstone. And it's in 2011 is when I drove up there. And I've done other trips. I've made other trips. Like, I take like photographs, and I try to I have all these ideas of like making like these short movies or stuff. It's just, I don't know, just things that I just like to do, aside from making music and collages. But anyway, I decide I'm just going to I know that things are really going to be bad. Like, I'm basically on the verge of losing my home and everything, because there was no way to really kind of make up. I mean, the economy was really I was losing shops like left and right. Like, I would lose like 12 shops in a year, and they were expecting us to like maintain and still like make profits with our stores. And there was just no way I could have done that. So I just got my car. I just decided to live on whatever severance I had and just get in my car and drive and, take photos and document it. I just thought, maybe I'll experience something, maybe something will happen. I don't know. I really didn't know what to expect. I felt like if I really just got in my car and just drove, I just could live off like whatever like negative feelings I was feeling. I could just kind of just get past it, because I was in a really bad, like, mentally, I was in a very kind of like suicidal, like, kind of mindset, just because it was so intense dealing with all that. And anyway, I make my way up to like New Mexico. Nothing really happens. I'm just like, I just kind of felt like a weird vibe. Like, I just kind of would go places and then just feel like, I'm just going to keep driving. I just want to get to Yellowstone or whatever. And I did stop in Durango, which is like it's actually Andrews Lake Trail. And there was kind of weird. Nothing, I didn't see anything, but I literally got like a mile down the trail, and I was like, I don't think I should go any further. Like, I just got a weird feeling that, like, right when I pulled up, I saw somebody coming down from the trail, and they just looked really like they were just really booking it and kind of scared and nervous. And I was like, well, it could be anything. Maybe they could be nervous about me. I don't know. Like, I just, I didn't really know what to think of it. But anyway, I basically decided to turn around, and I just had this very, like, just I don't know, weird feeling again. And anyway, so I didn't book anything throughout this whole trip. Like, I basically just like, I didn't like make any reservations or anything. Like, I just would try to get a hotel wherever I could. Like, it just didn't, I would end up having to pay like stupid money for it, but I was just like, I didn't know what to do. I was just like, I just want to try to see if I can get up there, and then, I don't know, see what happens. I don't know. Like, so I leave Colorado, and I start making my way up to Yellowstone, and I just started getting closer. And I mean, I was just like, wow, this place is just so beautiful. And so I finally arrive, and I get there, and the park rangers are just checking people like crazy. Like, it was like, this was July of 2011. And I was like, it was not the headquarters lodge cabin at Flags Ranch, but it was like the station that was before that I first got to. And they were just checking people like crazy. And I was just like, it really made me like, I went from being like, oh, I'm relaxed, and now I'm like living all this off, to being like, kind of like really in it, like, oh wow, like this is really serious. I need to be kind of on an alert. And I found out later on that a couple was walking. They're only like a mile or two down like one of these trails, like kind of near, it was about like, I guess like 3 or 4 miles like up before or like north of where I was at. But basically there was a couple, elderly couple, and they were just walking on the trail, and I guess there was a mother grizzly and her cubs, and it killed the man. And then the woman, she like crawled up in a ball apparently, and it just picked up the backpack, I guess, and dropped her, is what I read. But anyway, I didn't really know why they were doing it. I was like, all right, well, check my car and then let me go. So I make my way up north to the headquarters lodge. I'm like, all right, I made it. I'm here. I'm just going to stay here for the night. This place is beautiful. Like I'm good. And so I go get some food, and I get like a 6-pack of this Moose Drool beer, and I go back to I rent like a camping area, and they put me like basically like on the far corner end. Like I'm right next to the road, like literally, like I could even during the day, I could literally even see through the trees. You could see the road from where I was at. And so I set up my camp, just try to get, because it's about to get dark. And I try to set that up and get my camp or my tent, set up wherever. And there's people there. There's people around me. There's people next to me. I would say it seemed like they're kind of like at probably about like 60% capacity or something. I mean, it seemed like there's a decent amount of people there for sure. But anyway, so I finished doing that, and I was like, I want to get some more photos and just kind of just like look around a little bit more. I thought maybe I could go back to the first ranger station and get like I don't know, maybe just get some information, or just I don't know, just see what else I could find, just before I just go back and try to like relax and go to sleep or whatever. And so I'm driving back, and there's like a moose in the road. It's like it looked like, I guess, I don't know what you would say. Like, I'd say maybe like a juvenile to like, it wasn't like really small, but it wasn't like a baby though either. But it was just in the road and just looking like scared, like just looking terrified. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to mess with you, but I'm just stopped. I have my headlights. I'm just looking at it and just sitting there. And I'm like, okay, this thing is not going to move. And I was probably there for like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes. And I was like, all right, I'm kind of bored now. It's not moving, and I can't go around it. I don't want to I just didn't want to mess with it. So so I started to turn around. I start backing up, and I start to kind of maneuver so I can leave. And it darts over towards the water. There's like a lake right there, and it darts like right over there and like starts hiding and behind these bushes. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, sorry, dude. I hope I didn't, So I make my way back to my camp. So I'm just there. I'm drinking my beer. I think I had probably 3 or 4 of them. And and this is really stupid. I will admit, this was not smart of me. I was also kind of in a really bad state of mind. I mean, I was really kind of suicidal. I mean, there was a part of me that felt that and so I think that subconsciously I was I didn't care to leave out the beer cans, but I left them out. I left them just sitting out, and they had these, I don't know, these little metal containers where you put your trash, and I didn't do that. But anyway, so I drink my beer, I have a fire going, and the people directly next to me are they're pretty loud. They're being they're actually being really obnoxiously loud. And just, it was kind of annoying. It was kind of starting to bother me. And I was getting kind of all right, this kind of sucks. Cause it was going on. They wouldn't stop. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I should say something, but I was like, no, I'm not going to say nothing. But I get out of my tent, I don't know if I don't know if I had to take a piss or what, but I get out of my tent and it's just, I mean, it is black. I mean, it's pitch black. You cannot see anything. I take one photo. I just take one photo like directly above the sky because I was like, I have to document this because it's just so dark. Something is just eerily dark. When I was in the military, we'd call it like zero illumination. Because when we were using our night vision goggles, that was just like, it was just, you couldn't even see. It was kind of like they were useless when it was that dark out. And I'm just like, wow, this is freaky. So I get back in my tent, and so I notice that all of a sudden, like, the people that were next to me, that are next to me, they just go quiet. They just go like abruptly quiet. Like they went from like loud, like being kind of obnoxious to like completely just absolutely dead silent, like dead silent. And I'm like, okay, like that's kind of weird. And like, I don't know if maybe like 10, 15 minutes later, I just hear like these huge footsteps, like walking towards me from like directly from the road, like it's coming, like something is walking like directly. It was just like right across the road, like right at me. And it was just like the details now, like all the details of like that moment, like or what happened. I will say they're kind of a little fuzzy at this point. I mean, it's been a long time. And it was very traumatic. I mean, I immediately thought to myself, is this really happening? Like, I was like, is this really happening? Like, I just kept saying that to myself. Like, like, no way, this is not really happening. I just kept saying that to myself over, like, there's no way. And I'm like, this is really happening. And I just grabbed my mace, my bear mace, and I put it up. I lay down on my right side. I just lay down as flat as possible. And I put the bear mace, I'm holding the bear mace in both of my hands. And I put it up to the temple of my forehead. And I have the pen or whatever. I'm just trying to get it ready to like spray whatever. And that's all the protection I had. I had nothing else. I had no weapons, nothing. Like, there was nothing, if whatever it was, like I could not have defended myself, but it just walked in like it was, when people say, I've listened to people say that when they have like, I mean, when they try to be undetected, like that's what it sounds like. At first I thought it was maybe someone pissed off at me because I left the beer cans out, and they were like, or they were checking, like walking around to make sure like I was doing the right thing. And I was worried about that, like too. I was like, well, great, now I'm gonna get in trouble for this. Nothing was disturbed. Like it did, whatever it was, I do remember it leaning over and like just kind of being there. I literally laid there in like I felt like I was literally paralyzed with like, I mean, I was literally paralyzed with fear. I laid there for 3 straight hours. Like I couldn't do anything. I don't even know if I had my eyes open, or I think maybe I had them closed. I felt like if I did, and at first, when I first started hearing it, like people that I have told this story to, like, why didn't you look at it, or why didn't you see it? And I was like, first of all, it was so dark out. Like, I don't know what I would have been able to see. But then I also felt like if I did try to look, because the way my tent was, is like, it was really kind of open. Like all I had to do was just kind of like take a flap and just kind of push it up a little bit. And I could have just like looked and seen, or try to see something, you know what I mean? Maybe like a foot or something. But I just felt like whatever it could have been, it didn't feel like it was smart to react or do anything. And I kind of felt like I don't know if I had a telepathic experience. I know people have talked about that before. I will say my dad was a Vietnam veteran. He had a near-death experience where he was like blown up in Vietnam. With what he told me, like, it kind of felt like that whole experience with like this, like with whatever came up to my tent, or like, I felt like it was like something like switched inside of me. Like when that happened, like like I went from like being like, it was like it tried to tell me like, I don't know, just like keep living or something. It was weird. It's like it scared me into like this survival mode, and it turned something on inside of me. And I thought about my dad and that experience that he had. And I don't know, I didn't think I was going to get kind of emotional about this, but yeah, it flipped something on me. It was like, I literally felt like whatever it was standing over me, was like telling me, like warning me, and like telling me, like, just, I don't know, like it was trying to tell me to live or something. It was really, it was saying I could crush you right now, but I'm not gonna, like, I don't know. It's just, it's really odd. And it had like such an amazing experience, profound experience on me. And later on I really believe, I know, even though I did not see it and I only heard it, and I heard it walking in to my area, I really believe that, I don't believe that it was like a moose, and I don't believe that it was a bear. And that's the only thing that I think that could have been. And I don't think it was a human being, because if it was a human being, I think that they would have probably said something to me, and I think I probably would have gotten in trouble somebody would have said something or been like, hey, it's not smart for you to leave this out here. You know, like you gotta pick this up, you know, like, and I think to myself, like, you know, if it was a bear, which, I mean, it could have been a bear, but I don't think that it was. I never heard anything but 2 feet the whole entire time. Like I never heard like multiple feet. I didn't hear any kind of like swaying or anything like that. It was just very, I don't know it just sounded very deep, like the footsteps. It was like soft, but just deep, like just heavy, like just, it sounded huge. It did not sound, I mean, I thought human, because I could only hear 2 feet the whole entire time. That's all I heard, that the whole time. I have no idea how long it hung out there for. But all I know is I was in a state where I could not move for 3 hours. Like I couldn't do anything at all. I couldn't move. I couldn't run. My car was literally like next to me. I could have it was not very far for me to get into my car. Maybe not even like maybe 10 feet, if that. And I mean, and I just, I don't know. I mean, it was very life-changing. It was very powerful. I mean, it might not sound like people listening to this, like, you know, as intense, like a stare down, you know, but like, it was very, very incredibly powerful. And I really didn't, I mean, I couldn't even believe that it just was happening. I mean, it was just so, I thought, even with my interest, you know what I mean, being interested in stuff like that, I thought that it would, in my mind, I was thinking like, I thought it would be a little more different. I thought my experience would be a little bit more, just more like face to face. I figured I'd have some kind of like a face to face, and I didn't, unfortunately. I even drove around the park. I stayed in the park for about 4 days and just traveled around. I hiked everywhere. I saw a lot of like wildlife. They had like these boards that would document if someone saw whatever, and it was all kinds. I mean, everything, you name it. Another place that I camped at when I was there, I actually was right next to a grizzly, like literally like within feet of one. And at the Grant Village campground, they basically told us, like, right when we got there, like they had signs like, hey, you know, we have grizzly here too, you know, you got to be careful. But like this thing, so I ended up camping there anyway, which nothing happened. In fact, this bear was like really like, I don't know, it was just a very huge grizzly bear, and it would like walk through the camp like area, and it just wouldn't mess with anybody. But one day, or I guess it was, I don't know if it was the day that that I rented a spot there, or if it was the day after, but I definitely saw it. Like it walked right past me, and it was just super chill. It didn't even care. But I mean, I could hear it moving. Like it would not, like, I mean, they kind of snort and stuff. They're just kind of like clumsy. And this thing was coming into my tent. Like the thing that walked into my area was it felt like it was trying to be undetected, which is just like, I mean, who does that? You know what I mean? Who tries to do that? But anyway, I just went on with my trip, and I just continued on, and I was like, man, I really hope I see something. I mean, I would drive around at night. I would drive I was like, man, I thought maybe for sure. I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to I think I could probably have another like encounter if something like that happened to me, like just right that soon, you know. I just think that, you know, it could possibly happen again. Oh, also I wanted to say is that, and the reason what I think, this is what my thinking, this is what I believe what happened. I do believe whatever it was. I believe that it was a Bigfoot. I really, that's just what I believe. I mean, I that's just what I think and believe in my heart. I mean, there's just nothing else that it could have been. And I think what happened was that I was potentially disturbing it from getting its food. And that's the reason why I think that it like approached me. I think it was kind of like coming up like, hey, I could crush you like an insect right now, but I'm going to let you live. And it was crazy. I mean, I came back. My life was very rough when I came back. I had a lot of stuff I had to face. You know, I feel for these people in California because that's basically what I lost everything. I ended up, when I got home, it was tough. There was no way to really go back to doing what I was doing. And I had to basically just completely change course. My life dramatically changed after that. And I had to be strong to get through all that. Cause I mean, it was just it was very heartbreaking. I mean, I had built my first home by myself. And well, I mean, I didn't build it but you know, I had my first home built, and I was just, you know, my ex of 17 years. I mean, everything was gone. You know, it was just, everything was falling apart in my life. And I had to really pick it all up. And just having that experience, had I not had that, it would have, I don't know if I'd probably even be here. I mean, and I'm sorry to get so emotional. People usually tell these stories and they get like kind of emotional about stuff like this. And, you know, it's probably normal, but I didn't really intend to, but it was very powerful. And I believe that they exist. I don't know. I think that I don't know exactly what they are. You know, I think that they are flesh and blood creatures. That's what I believe that. And it's kind of hard for me to wrap my mind around some things, but I try to keep my mind open to, you know, I don't know, we will talk about things of them being able to teleport, but I just think that they're really very strong and very powerful, and with what's going on right now in the world and just how the world is kind of burning up, you know, I think that just pushes them, you know, into more isolated areas, and they just stay more hidden. I've spent like a lot of time on the road traveling for my jobs, and just, you know, being in the military and being all over the place. And I always feared I'd probably see something walking across the road or something, but I never really have, unfortunately. And hopefully someday I try to find areas to go venture out. I lived in Houston for a little while, and I would go into like Sam Houston National Forest, and I would just get out there just to kind of just clear my mind and just try to like just figure out life. And you know, I would definitely get some weird, some freaky, but Sam Houston National Forest is definitely, it's got some pretty freaky vibes out there. But yeah, let me see. But yeah, I had another experience. I don't know what this was. It was in Austin. It was around, I don't know, 2012, I believe. And it was just before I lost my home. And I would always keep my back porch open and the door on the back porch. And I would just play music and just kind of like, just pace around, like walk around and just kind of like, you know, just, I don't know, try to figure out life. And one night I look out and I was living in Austin, like kind of I was actually right next to the airport. I live right by the airport, and I walk out and I look, and it's just the most strangest thing I've ever seen in my life. It wasn't like freaky, but it was definitely weird. It was like, so describe what I saw was like, it looked like if you could take spokes of a bike and heat them up with like, to where they're like hot, like red hot, but they're like all uniform and they're all like in like a kind of like spread out like a flower, but it was like a spiral in the sky. And there was no fireworks going on. There was nothing. There was not a time of year for that to be even happening. And it was like in suspended animate. It was like it was moving, but it was moving very, 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 very slow. But almost kind of but you could only see just like these like lines, and they were just kind of like all spread out like in a spiral that was like kind of like moving like like what you would imagine maybe like a black hole or something. I don't know, but like it was just the weirdest thing, and it just kind of faded out. And I think that I tried to take photos of it or take video of it, but it didn't like really come out. And I was just like, what, you know, whatever that could be. Like, I don't know. Sometimes like I'm really kind of like in that mindset where, oh yeah, I need to capture this. And then sometimes I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I really care. But yeah, it was just a very, very strange thing. I know that there's a lot of people have had like just weird, unexplained things. And I've never heard anybody ever describe anything like this or see anything like it. It wasn't my eyes either. Like I wasn't like, you know, you have like one of those things where you look at lights and then you look away and it like makes your, you know, I don't know what that's called, but it just has that imprint on your eye kind of thing. Like it was not like that at all. Like it was like stationed like in that area. Like it was sitting in the sky, kind of like, I don't know, just not super high up, but just sitting there. And it looked like it was kind of moving or whatever, but it just kind of just disappeared, just like slowly, just kind of just was gone. I don't know. I mean, it was just, but yeah, but anyway, but that's basically my story. I mean, sorry for getting so emotional. It was very intense for me. I wish I could kind of go back in time. I mean, I feel like so much time has passed that it's like, it's not as clear in my mind, but just the circumstances of all that and like what happened and what was happening at that time is still pretty, you know, I still remember all that pretty clearly. So but yeah, I've heard other people have had like other experiences there. In fact, like that exact same area. One of the things that was kind of unusual is that like, so everybody the morning after, so I took a photo of like, it said it's marked 7:50 in the morning. I think I was up around 7:00. I'm pretty sure. And everybody was gone, like completely gone. I didn't have a chance to ask anybody if they hadn't like experienced anything, which is like, I mean, that's kind of unusual. I mean, everybody's camping and want to get in, you know, people like to just get on their way and do their thing. But I was wishing that I could have, you know, asked some people around because it was very weird. It was just very weird how they just like were being all like loud and just like carrying on like it was nothing. Like it was like they weren't concerned about anybody else that was around them. And then just go like abruptly silent, like really silent, like not a peep, you know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think if anything, it was checking people out or something. I don't know. I mean, something for sure was walking around.
Brent, thank you for sharing. That is an incredibly emotional story. I don't think you should ever feel like you have to apologize for how that affected you. I mean, that is a literally life-changing experience, what you experienced. And I've been in a situation where I've been in a tent alone in a place, and something was walking around my tent at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. And it is very, very intense living in that space where it's just you and whatever is out there.
Yeah.
I don't talk about it a lot, but it's very, very intense. And how did that... I found that when I was in that situation, it affected me a lot of different physical ways. Did it affect how you were breathing or your blood pressure? Did you find any weird things start to happen to you?
No, I just could not move. Like, I literally, nothing. I was paralyzed. Like, I mean, I was literally paralyzed. So I wasn't like, my body was like constricted. Like, that's how it felt. Like, it was constricting and just holding. It was like I was just in this, like, this frozen, like, just cringed position. Like, I don't know. It was just weird. And what was weird is that at the time, like, it was like, I had no concept of time. Like, it's weird that I was there for 3 hours and I didn't, like, it felt like 15 minutes. Like, it felt like, it didn't feel like that I had been there that long. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like maybe 35 minutes, but it was 3 hours, 3 full hours. So at that point, after 3 hours, I felt like I can move, and I reached down to check my phone, and I was like, it was like, it had 3 hours had passed, and I was like, wow, like, I was like, whoa. And I don't even know if it was there the whole time or not. It was hard for me. I would hear things, like I would hear like more movement and stuff, but I was just like, at that point, I think what I was doing, my mind was trying to like just block it out. My mind was just like, oh, you just got to block this out. Like, you don't want to like you don't. It's like my mind was like, you don't want to be like, we don't want to be experiencing this. Like, it just, that's what, and I was, that's all I can say. I mean, it was just. It was so nuts. And it was so weird. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I wish I could have like asked the people next to me what they experienced. And it was, I mean, I'm not kidding you. Like, everybody was gone too. Like, when I woke up, it was like everybody had left the park. I was like, I was like, where did everybody go? Like, doesn't like, didn't no one like staying? Like, don't people like, cause they had like, people looked like they were like set up for like, like they were planning on staying there for a little while, like, and it wasn't like the weather was not really bad at all. It was actually very nice. It was a little cold and kind of chilly, but yeah.
When you got up that morning, did you notice anything weird about the area around your tent? Like, on the ground, was there anything you saw?
I didn't notice anything.
Oh, wow.
No, the ground was it was really dry, like just super, super dry. Like, it's like, and it was kind of, there was a little bit of a wind, a little bit of a slight breeze. I think it kind of like, I don't think there was any kind of like, the soil was just not really like that around me to really make anything. But I walked around and looked around for it. And I just didn't see anything. I took a photo of like, there's like a open, I guess it's like a trail, I guess. Like, I don't know if it's like a full trail or it just kind of opens up, but I just took a photo out just to kind of like, this is where I'm, this happened here kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's, it was not really like a beautiful photo of anything like spectacular. It was just like, all right, click, I'm just marking this, for my reference. But yeah.
You also mentioned that you had an experience where you knew that there was definitely a grizzly a few feet away from you.
No, I saw it. I
You
like
saw it.
literally
Okay.
saw it.
Okay.
Yeah, like I saw it, and like I could hear it and see it, and it was not far from me. Like I wasn't trying to like take photos of it or video it, but I mean, you can. It was it's at the Grant Village campground, is what the photo says. That's where the area is. But if you look that up or contact them, I'm sure that there's like they probably have a history of like they have to have some documentation of it, because they told me when I was renting my space there, they're like we have a grizzly that walks around here. And this is not close to where I was at. And this is like further up, like from where I was at. This is a much further, like, this is like, I mean, you can look and see where it was, but it didn't seem like it was in the same area. But like this, yeah, it definitely walked up, but that was not, and we weren't told that that was something we had to like, they said they were checking people, but they weren't saying that they were expecting, I don't know. They just said that it could happen, I mean, it could, they're all over the park. I mean, they're everywhere. So, but yeah, I definitely did. I was next to it, and I'm like, it was pretty close. It would basically just walk through the camp, and it would hang out in that area, the Grant Village campground or whatever. And I think someone actually, I don't know if it was the same one, but I read recently that it was like, I guess it was put down because someone tried to mess with it or something. And I was just, all I was doing was going from place to I was just like, I'm just going on from another place, and I'm going to camp here again, which was, I don't know, like, it's kind of crazy that I even felt like comfortable camping again. I don't even know how I was like, I'm surprised that I wasn't like terrified. I think I was at that, but like I said, I was just like, it just excited. It scared me, but it also like, it just did something to me. Like it like turned something on inside me. And I was like kind of just obsessed. Like when I stayed at Old Faithful, I mean, I drove around for like at least an hour and a half that night, and I would just drive, I'd blast my music like really loud, and then I would just turn it completely off. And I didn't really have much, but yeah, hearing how its movements and hearing it walk. The bear was it was clumsy. You could hear it like kind of groaning and like, and just, doing stuff like the way I've heard what bears sound, and like, we know what bears sound like. That's not what I was hearing. Like, this was like quiet, like something was trying to like not be detected, but it was still letting me know it was there. Like, it was like, it literally I just know that it leaned over my head, like leaned over me, like literally like directly over me, and just kind of like just stood, like just was there. And I could just feel its presence. Like it was just so crazy. But I'm very convinced that it was not, it was not that, it was not a bear. It was not a moose. Like, I think I would have definitely heard the moose. If anything, I mean, and if the mama moose was around, and like, it was far enough up the road that I don't think that I don't think that it would have been able to find me or figure out where I was at, or if that was me, because it's not like it could see where I was going, and it's not like it knew where I was camped at, you know what I mean? But right. Like, I don't know, like, I don't know. I still, to this day, it's been something that's been something that I think about like all the time. And I'm nervous to have like, a face to face, but at the same time, I think it'd be very interesting to have my own encounter someday and see, just see with my own eyes. And I hear so many like interesting, stories, and I feel like we're going to catch up at one point. I actually, one of the songs, I actually created a song for I don't know if you mind me mentioning about, or we talked about this earlier, but yeah, but I make music, and I've been kind of making collages and stuff like that. It kind of like, I don't know, it's just kind of like a therapeutic thing for me. helps me kind of work things out, and just, I don't know, it's just interest to me. But I wrote a song titled First Contact, A Close Encounter. And it was just inspired by that event. And I wrote a lot of those songs that don't like, I wrote a song about orbs. If anybody wants to check it out, it's called The Wild Whimpers. That's the name of it's the instrumental music. But yeah, hopefully I'll have more experiences in the future. I don't get out as much in the woods as often as I'd like to. I mean, we supposedly have, there's a space, it's really crazy here in Oklahoma City that has, it's a nature reserve that actually there's a history of people having, like, seeing stuff, like, walk through, and the way that the land is, like, basically like situated, they can basically, it's like anything could walk through, like, this kind of like, it's a kind of like a corridor almost that, like, kind of opens up into the reserve, but, like, outside of that reserve is just nothing but houses and stuff. So people supposedly have stuff. I mean, I've seen and encountered things out there, multiple people. So I don't know, I try to get out there and, I don't know, have another experience and see something, but nothing's really happened as of yet. I mean, it seems like, like I said, with all the stuff that's going on in this world, I feel like they're kind of, these fires and stuff like that. I think about, like, how that affects them, and they, just how they deal with all the elements, cold and all that. I mean, obviously they're adapted to it, but it's just, like, definitely fires and stuff like that. That's got to be something that's really, I imagine that's why it pushes them in certain areas. And I also reached out to Ron Moorhead. I actually made another version of that song and added some clips of the Sierra sounds to it. I just thought it sounded really cool, but I ended up taking it down. I reached out he was okay with me using it. Like, I talked to him through email, and he was okay. He gave me permission. He just wanted me to give him credit for it. But I was like, they're currently working on a documentary about about the camp. And I didn't want anybody to think that I was, like, trying to write off his fame or something, or just being like, because I had mentioned to him about, like, maybe, like, doing, like, I asked him, has anybody made a movie about his life or about his experiences out there? Because I thought what they had experienced was very interesting. And I thought that, like, I mean, the Sierra sounds and the Patterson Gimlet footage, those are the two most convincing pieces of evidence to me, because they're during a time where it's really, really, really difficult to fake that. But I reached out to him about that. And so I might maybe release that later on. I don't know. I mean, he said it's okay. I just told him I decided to take it down for the moment and just see, just release my music I just want to let my, music speak for itself for now, and then see where it goes. But maybe later on, I told them that they're welcome to use that for that documentary if they would like to, but yeah, that's something else.
Well, we'll definitely have, your music linked in the show notes for this, so people can go and check that out. But I hope you do continue to go out into nature, and it sounds like you would be going with the right intention. And I think if you continue to do that, you may definitely have something else happen in the future, and would love to hear about that for sure.
I think it's just going to be, honestly, I feel like it's going to be like, it's just going to be another unexpected something. Like, it'll be something that I don't expect, because it seemed like when I was intently trying to find something, it was harder. Like, it was just like but like when I was not even, like, expecting it, that's when it was like, you know what I mean? Like, it just, I was like, whoa, like, it just, I don't know. I mean, it just, I feel like, I don't know if I would actually, if I ever saw one, like, I don't know if I'd even be prepared for that. But I guess I kind of think in my mind that I am like in a sense preparing myself for that, but you never know what to I don't know what to expect. I mean, here's so many stories from, you know, people, their reactions. And I mean, you know, it's, you just never know, like, I guess what you would expect, you know, but anyway, but I really appreciate you letting me share my story again. Sorry for getting emotional. I was not expecting that at all. But it was definitely very tense. I think I wish I could share that collage that I did for my dad, because that was really kind of, I felt like those experiences were really kind of like the way he described it, and just kind of like, it was very, very spiritual. And I think that there is like a very like deep, like, there's something about them. There's just something that's very, I don't know. It's like this sense that's just, I don't know. I think they are, in a sense, maybe, you know, a little bit more advanced in just a very primal way, you know, and we're kind of more heading towards that kind of like tech, you know, we're just kind of heading in a different direction. I feel like humans are just, we're moving completely away. We're going more digitized and more, and they're just, you know, I don't think they probably actively think of like, we're honing in our skills here, but, you know, like, you know, it's like I do feel like there's something about them that they, you know, they can move fast, and it's like they have so much strength and ability and agility, and they're just built that way to move and just like evade things. And I think that's why they stay, you know, so hidden and so undetected, you know. But hopefully someday we'll figure it out. I think they would be really cool. When I pitched that, when I was asking Ron Moorhead about this whole thing, or mentioning that to him, a lot of thoughts were going through my head, and I was thinking like, oh man, people are going to think like this is like some, you know, I don't know. I don't know what really people think. I mean, I just generally think a lot of the movies to me that I watch, like, that are about like, they're always usually really silly, and they always put in some silly costume, and it's not really like, it's, you know, it's not really, I don't know. It's just kind of done in a very kind of like, in a way that kind of pokes fun a lot of time, makes it, you know, it seems really intentional. I don't know, I guess for entertainment purposes or what, but, you know, I just said, you know, there's movies that are basically based on documentaries, but that's not something that he, you know, he has a different angle of what he wants, you know, to take this, and that's kind of like counter, I guess he might see that as counterproductive. It's like making a movie about someone's life, because, you know, people always think that movies maybe can't be based on something real. I actually went to a trip and stopped in Roswell, New Mexico one time on one of the trips that I took, just driving around, and I actually saw that guy from the Fire in the Sky movie. He was at like the museum there. It was really interesting, just kind of meet him. But anyway, but I don't know, maybe something will happen of that later on. Maybe I'll, like I said, I might release that song later on, and there might be something come of it. But if it doesn't, it doesn't, you know, but that's something else that I was like, you know, I'm just mentioning it was something that I was working on. I don't, you know, I just don't want to give the wrong impression. So that's why I said I wanted to wait, you know, I want to get like, you know, if their construction crew, if they end up like doing like a documentary, they can like use it, you know. So I just didn't want to push it. But I just think that their stories are they're very interesting, way more, you know, just, you know, I wish I had some evidence or something, you know, to really say, hey, this is what, you know, all I have really is just photos and just my word of, you know, what happened. But, you know, but I really appreciate you letting me share this. And this is the only time I've shared it, like, pretty much. I mean, I've told a few people, and they've listened to me. Like, I think about half of them like think that they don't really, you know, think maybe if I'm crazy or not. I don't know what they think, but I think which is even odd, because some of the people that I've told this to, I have this one friend that he spends a ton of time. He's gone like all kinds of places, like just anywhere, just like that you'd think that Sasquatch would probably be. But he's really kind of like, no, he's a real, like, I don't know. He basically just says, he won't say nothing, but I don't know if that's like, maybe he has had something. I imagine something's bound to happen, but because I just hear so many, if you spend enough time, I guarantee you, if someone spends enough time, that they're probably, it's bound to happen eventually. It's just, I mean, that's just my opinion, but I don't know. I mean, I really think that, but anyway.
Well, we definitely all have our own journey that we have to travel trying to figure all this out. But, I just want to say again, Brent, thank you for coming on and for trusting us enough to share your story and allowing us to put it out there. And I've really appreciated talking to you today, and, definitely keep us informed if anything else does happen in the future. But thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, no problem. I'll share this on my Instagram too. So like my followers can check it out, check out the episode. I don't mind having people listen to this. It's I think it's interesting. I love studying. I still, even like I said, I've had an interest since I was a kid, and it's still really interesting to me. It's just fascinating. I hope someday we can kind of really figure out, dive in and find out like more of what they are, and maybe like acknowledge that they're, have the people, that work in these government positions, like acknowledge it and just kind of just say, hey, and then, maybe you could just protect it,
Just want to take a few minutes to say thank you to you, all my listeners, for listening to the podcast. Please take a minute to help out the show by subscribing on YouTube, making sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and share the episode on YouTube with a friend. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed, share the show with a friend. Really, it's all about sharing the show wherever you can. If you've had a Bigfoot encounter related to the following or know someone who has, please reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or pass on my email. Here's a list. Number 1, encounters from Franklin County, Texas. Number 2, encounters from the entire state of Iowa. Number 3, encounters from Oak Ridge, Oregon, or the surrounding area. Number 4, any individuals that know about Bigfoot being flown off after the Mount St. Helens eruption. Number 5, individuals that have had a Bigfoot encounter while in the military. Number 6, those that have had a Bigfoot encounter in the southern New Hampshire or north central Massachusetts area, including Franklin County, Massachusetts. Number 7, individuals that have had a Bigfoot encounter in a Bible camp or Boy Scout camp setting. Number 8, individuals that have had Bigfoot try to enter their house forcibly while they were living inside. Number 9, individuals that have actively have a Bigfoot living on their property. And lastly, any sightings that are in the Ouachita National Forest area of Oklahoma or Arkansas. A special thank you to all the Bigfoot Society Patreon and YouTube channel members. It's your support that helps keep the show going, and I extremely appreciate it. I'll see you back next time, listeners. Sasquatch Summerfest this year, July 11th through the 12th. It's going to be fantastic. July 11th through 12th in Green Waters Park in Oak Ridge, Oregon. And listeners, if you're going to go, you can get a 2-day ticket for the cost of one. If you use the code BFS, like Bigfoot Society, but BFS, and it'll get you some off your cost. Priscilla was nice enough to provide that for my listeners. So there you go. I look forward to seeing you there. So make sure you head over to www.sasquatchsummerfest.com and pick up your tickets today.